Are you ready for a delicious, jaw-dropping conversation? Our guest is a serial MarTech founder, was a music director serving 20 million listeners, a Sirius on-air host, and an award-winning radio producer. Buckle up, folks. It's Female Founder Friday on the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founder startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions they need and inspiration they need to succeed. And thank you for carving out time to tune in and up your founder game, because as you do better, your business will do better. And thanks for coming on and cheering on another founder, because you never know what solutions, tools, insights, aha moments you may have while hearing a fellow founder startup story. And if you're joining us live today or via replay, please say hello. I love swinging by and saying hi to the listeners and viewers of the show. And how do you get an alert whenever I post a new show? Will you join our fab Startup Life Live meetup group? That's at bit.ly/Startup Life Live. Live is in all caps, or you can scan that QR code to join the meetup group. And that way you'll receive an alert whenever I post a new show. How cool is that? And I want to thank you for sharing your love on this video, wherever you're watching it from, because we're live on LinkedIn and archived on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. And by liking and sharing the content today, someone in your community, your feed, your circle is going to benefit from what we're chatting about today. So thank you so much. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, please share your subscribe, love, and click on the bell icon for alerts. And I am beyond grateful for that. You see, this really helps us reach more first-time founders and help them maximize the joy and minimize the heartache from their founder journey. And if you resonate with the show's mission of amplifying diverse founder voices while serving first-time founders around the world, please reach out to me to learn more about how you can make a greater impact on the startup ecosystem through sponsoring the Startup Life Live Show. Just reach out to me, Ande, at andelyons.com. All right, so now I get to introduce you to our guest, and I have been a fan of this woman for a long time. She's amazing, known forever and around everywhere, and it's Kate Bradley Chernis. So here we go. Look at that. She's a serial entrepreneur with decades of experience in multimedia marketing and a track record of outstanding results delivered for large and small brands. Her current enterprise is LatelyAI, a marketing software platform using artificial intelligence to automatically transform long-form content like blogs, podcasts, and videos into dozens of smart social posts, yielding the highest engagement from a targeted audience. Oh yeah, founders. Content marketing just got a whole lot easier, right? Okay, so join me in welcoming the amazing, the wonderful, the oh-so fab Female Founder Friday gal. It's Kate Bradley Chernis.
Hey, what's happening? You are the amazing one, Ande. I mean, my gosh, superwoman, really.
Oh,
thank you so much. And look at our friends. I already know people here. There's Mia Voss, a great friend.
Oh,
we got Barbara. Oh my gosh.
My God, let's just bring them in. Let's just show these wonderful folks. Hey, Mia in Denver, Colorado. Hey, folks, if you want to listen to something that's amazing, go subscribe to Mia's podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About, because she goes there. It's everything you want to know that you were afraid to ask.
That's what I love too about all these women that I've been meeting in the circles over the last 7 years of lately, is that we're more and more ready and willing to pull back the black curtain, Ande.
Yes.
And to just be, I call it real ass real, but say the things that maybe we wouldn't have said before.
That's right. I mean, why hide behind, it's not, polite conversation. It's like, let's get real. And this is what I see. And you probably see this a lot too in the startup world, is how folks like to glamorize it and glorify it.
Yes.
Are you kidding? Hashtag the struggle is real. And it's how do we get through all the fires and problems that we confront on a daily or minute basis. I'm always saying 1 minute you're popping the champagne and the next minute you're crying into it.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, Shark Tank really has, as you said, they've glorified and over glamified it, but the worst part is they've scienced it to death.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't understand, is there's not a recipe to this procedure at all, right? And it's bled over to the venture capital world too, because people are just thinking they're checking boxes and they forget to go in and have a conversation with the human being
Right.
behind there, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So we need people like you and Mia.
Right, to have the conversations, real as real. Exactly, Mia. And hey, Barbara, so happy to see you. Barbara is a published author, has a whole slew of amazing books. And of course, authors are artist entrepreneurs. All right. So, they're creative entrepreneurs who are having to hustle and build their own brand and build business every day. So I'm up here in Boston, right? And where are you hanging out today, Kate?
I'm 90 miles west of you. So about that, right? So if you just drove a few hours and you would hit me in New York. So I'm in Stone Ridge, which is mid Hudson Valley, not the city.
Yeah. And we have a mutual friend. I call her Blairdacious, Blair Glazer, but I've known her for years as well. And so she wanted me to be sure, she's on the plane right now, to be sure to say hello.
Hi, Blair. Yeah, she's a great friend. She lives over in Woodstock. The community here is really incredible. I mean, as you might imagine, we've got the Culinary Institute of America.
Right.
The original one is right down the road. So foodie central.
Right.
And of course, our population increased 30% in the last year.
Oh, of course.
Thanks to COVID.
Because now people don't have to, they don't have to be in the city.
Yeah.
So good.
I know.
I want to remind everybody, Kate, amplify your brand, folks. Okay. Share your business name, your one line, or your website URL in the comments, because we will go take a moment and go, you rock! All right. And celebrate the fact that you get up every day and make this happen. And to that end, let's just do a quick one right here for Barbara Tibbetts, because she did the right thing. Yay! The lookbookhunt.com.
Right.
Yay. See, that's how it's done, folks. Nothing wrong with that. And also be sure to pop any questions that you have for this extraordinary female founder. Those of you watching the replay, same with you. We'll make sure we can get them answered. But, we all learn together from other people's insights, and you never know. There could be a solution right around the corner for someone just because you asked the right question. Okay. So, Kate.
Yes.
What a background. I mean, I don't even know where to start, because I'm so
Oops.
excited to dive into Lately. But let's chat about marketing, your marketing journey, because that is what has compelled you and driven you and been your North Star, I believe, all along the way. What is it about marketing? And then why did you take that beautiful brain of yours? Because, you've got... Folks, marketing is a numbers game. So we're talking someone who really is a smarty pants here. And you have to always be looking at numbers, but I'm curious about that. And also, what compelled you to go into broadcasting? Because you did a deep dive there as well. Take it away.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, who are you talking about? With marketing, it sort of happened by accident, because what I love, Andy, is writing. I really love writing, and I love rule breaking in general, but certainly in writing. I was a fiction writing major, right? So that's where you're allowed to break rules, and it's encouraged. And I love the way words sound, especially, of course, that's why I was in the music industry, the lyricalness,
yes.
Right? And when you read copy, you hear the words of somebody else who wrote them in your head all the time. So those two things, constantly are around me. And in fact, I'll tell you a secret. I actually cheat, Andy. So I have severe tendonitis and epicondylitis, and I can't type at all with my hands.
Yeah.
So I use voice-activated software to talk to my computer. So I hear what I say all day long, right? Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
I'm still talking for a living. I'm not even on the air anymore.
So how did you land into broadcasting and build? Because, broadcasting is... a wonderful springboard for where you ended up. And because you had to have learned a lot about promotion and how do you get people to tune in again and again and increase the reach, all of those important things.
Yeah, who knew that like my little career in radio would, be helpful? Because frankly, for anyone who's been in radio, like it doesn't pay very much. I mean, I was at the show, I was at XM, right? Broadcasting to 20 million listeners a day. Everybody wanted to be there. This is in 2004 through 6. And I think I made $54,000 a year. And I had like the third best job you could have there. It wasn't great, in Washington, D.C., like a major metropolitan city.
That
But
gets you just through a few months overhead.
Yeah, right. I mean, but everybody wants to do it because it's perceived as it's so funny about the green room. Everybody wants to go in the green room, but the green room is disgusting. Once you're in there, it's like either disgusting or it's not a big deal at all. But that's how it is. But with radio, I was actually, so I used to work in, so I was a line cook all through high school and college. I used to have a crazy metabolism and I needed to feed myself and I couldn't afford to. So you get 2 free meals a day in the kitchen, and I love the lawlessness of that as well. So everything Tony Bourdain ever wrote is 100% true, Ande.
Yes. And everyone should work in the restaurant industry at some point in your life.
You should, because it builds camaraderie, teamwork. You get tons of sympathy and empathy. Like I worked in kitchens where they would flip it. So the wait staff would be on the line and the line had to be on the wait staff one day a year, which is wild. We got tipped out after that, for like a week. But what's beautiful about being on the line is, number one, I was always the only woman in the kitchen, which is kind of a little bit weird. But you have to roll with those punches. But there's this great collaboration of everybody trying to get the thing up at the same time. And it's an unspoken dance that you do. You're literally dancing around each other. So you're memorizing people's movements and working around them. And the intuition you have to have about what's coming up. I mean, certainly there's communications happening, but you have to have a lot of like just peripheral in your visual field, but like also just I think in this weird third sense,
Absolutely.
I love that. It's an unspoken kind of thing there, right? And on top of that, I love vernacular that comes out of close situations like that. Like, have you ever noticed sometimes it's families, sometimes it's your work group, but people start to develop their own language?
Absolutely. Shorthand,
yeah. And so that happens in the kitchen a lot also. But as I was in the kitchen, I decided to elevate myself and go work for an art rag, a newspaper, a weekly newspaper. And I was in charge of no one ever asks this, so I think I've only told the story once. I was in charge of the personals section, so I had to edit all the personals.
Oh boy.
But I also sold the ads to the body, mind, spirit section. They were the same people, Ande. So like literally one day I'm editing this personal and the guy says the headline of his personal is "Hirsute, a plus." And I didn't know this word and we didn't have iPhones. And so I had to go find the dictionary and look up Hirsute, I think it is, hirsute. And what it means is hairy a plus. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Jim from the Vaz Clinic. The Vaz Clinic was where they snip you. My client. So I call him up and I'm like, Jim, what are you saying here, dude? Anyways, it was so bizarre, this job I had. So I was working, there was a media cup race at a ski area where they invited all the newspaper people and radio and etc. And I was just complaining about the music very loudly because I'm obnoxious. And I mean, I just am. And the radio people looked over at me and they invited me to their table. And this woman just said, "You have a nice voice. Do you want a job?" And I said, "Sure." And I went and interviewed. Apparently I swore through the interview. I don't remember this, but I let some F-bombs drop and somehow they hired me. But I was really
perfect
lucky.
for a music director.
I know, right? Like, who knew? I was so lucky because that radio was live. And I had the experience of cracking the mic every night and making mistakes like you wouldn't believe. right? That's what they wanted you to do. And testing out, what kind of voice was I going to use? Was it going to be a sexy voice? Or is it going to be a big monster truck voice? Right? And it was none of those. But you get to play around, right?
Yeah, but you put yourself in that situation. Luck is, of course, being prepared when the opportunity comes around, but also asking for it and putting it out there. And also
saying yes to your point, right?
And you reminded me of when I was a bartender at a country rock bar in Denver, Colorado Boulevard, folks. And they wanted to get the crowd in for the cover charge, right? To see the band. So happy hour was at 11 p.m. to 12 p.m. So they'd be 4 deep at the bar. And so it's that multitasking live conversations. You've got the cocktail, everybody's just, and you're, taking money because we didn't have credit cards back then, did we? Anyway. So all of that is just spinning together, right? And this lived experience, you see my gal here with Arlen Hamilton in her book, It's About Damn Time. This is what she talks a lot about, is the lived experience. So some of us go through, traditional pathways to where we want to go. You said, look, I am going to live and I'm going to create, I'm going to build. And you knew, I sensed that you were building more of who you wanted to be and how you wanted to be in the world, bringing with you your love of writing, your love of music. So now you are a music director. You made all your wonderful mistakes. You were live. And folks, the best part of hitting that live button is that there is no going back. There's no editing, any flubs, anything you do, you are like naked, right?
True. Yeah. Like the kitchen, by the way, right? There's the thrill. It's the thrill of in the moment.
It really is. And so now you have built to this, you had to build up listenership. And this is, again, tying into the marketing background that you're building and understanding language and understanding personas and understanding how different demographics work and think. What happened then? Like, how did you get to have 20 million listeners?
Yeah. So I learned, a couple of things. When I was in that first radio job, I learned that there is no money in radio and that the place there is money in is in production, in making the commercials, right? So I learned how to do that. And it was so fun because there's art there. You're taking all these different sounds, snippets of sounds, and you're assembling them. And you don't really hear this done very well anymore because people don't take the time to do it. But we took a lot of pride in that. We would go to lunch and brainstorm for 2 hours on how to make this creative commercial. It's just kind of crazy stuff.
So good.
Theater of the mind, right? This is what we were trying to evoke and use and really relish, because what's so powerful about the theater of the mind is the audience participates and you don't know how they're going to, right? That's part of it, is it's the question mark, but that's the magic, the human element, right?
Right.
And so before I was at XM, I got invited down to North Carolina in Wilmington to help launch a station in the format we had. So let me think. What's the one in Denver? I always forget, but our format is AAA. So it means adult album alternative.
Mm-hmm.
It's album rock that covers 50s through now. And it's rock and roll, folk, reggae, blues, like, all the different genres. And, how do you make this stuff mix? So it takes a lot of artistry to make the segue like that, right? And
you're a conductor. You're pulling it all together so it synthesizes.
Synthesize is the word. And my job, as yours is, as this is why you're such a great host, is to make everyone who's on the other side of the microphone feel as though they have a voice, right? That's the job. And because at this new place in Wilmington, I was the production director, so all the commercials were designed by me. All of the little drops that happen between the music that say, you're listening to 104.7 The Penguin, that was all me, my voice, everything. And then I was live at night. And so I threw out the playlist every night because I didn't agree with it. And he said we could have some leeway. And so I brought in my own records and I was hand mixing everything. And so it was kind of the me show for 5 hours. And after I'd left and gone to XM, Mark called me and said, hey, we just got the book, meaning the Arbitron book, right? So Arbitron is like Nielsen for radio.
Right, the ratings.
Right, the ratings. And he said, you're number one. And I said, what? Now, AAA in any market is always like number 20 21, we're low down, right? It's a weird format. And at night, against classic rock and country in a southern state, it was totally weird. And so he's like, "What'd you do?" I was like, "Well, I threw out your playlist is what I did. Sorry." But it's because I took the time to think about, like, how do I make you trust me? How do I make you feel like you're in the green room with me? And it's not just about the songs I pick, it's the order that I pick them. It's what I say in between. It's making mistakes on purpose. It's creating silence. It's making you feel that I'm in control and that I'm the authority, yet I'm just goofy enough or relatable enough, dropping enough pieces of myself, just like you do so well, right? I mean, there's a reason you have that particular book behind you today, right?
Right.
There's a reason I've got Pac-Man behind me.
There's a reason it's Andelicious advice.
There you go.
There we go.
And there's all these things that we've talked about already today. We've talked about being in the kitchen, radio, women entrepreneurship, revealing, right? So we're already dropping all kinds of access points because, Andy, humans don't like to be reached out in one way because we have so many, we're multifaceted,
Sure.
right? And we have multiple values. This is why it's so my friend David Allison, I'm getting off topic and I'm sorry, but
That's
he has a company called Value Graphics, and he consults the United Nations. I mean, amazing. And the idea is that demographics are passe, and value graphics, what people value, is incredibly more important and more predictive, and unites people across sex, age, race, location, right? What we care about. And so if you think about it like that, whether you're wielding the microphone here, whether you're writing a piece of copy, be it social, or you're the author of a book, there's this onus on you to provide that value and to really think about, like, how many different ways can I give people an access point to me? And what I've found, and this, by the way, all underscores how LatelyAI works.
Great.
Right? So,
perfect.
Yeah. It all ties together, to your point,
yes.
right? Like,
yeah.
It seems like a wild zigzag. But
it all has a purpose.
It has a purpose, and you have to have the wherewithal to know that, right? Because my friend Chris Bro said that. He's like, it seems like a zigzag until you're wise enough to see the straight line.
That's right. Oh, yay, Chris.
I know, he's good.
Wait a minute. That's a def. Chris, I would do this for you. Absolutely. I would put that on let me just get the one with the applause for a second here so we can really make it fun. Stitch that on a pillow. It's all squirrely until you learn enough to see the straight line. Okay, and folks, what Kate was just sharing is so important. And that's why when you are starting out, or even if you've been at it for a while and you really want to dive deeper into who your customers are, do this exercise. Hey, reach out to me. I'll send it to you, Ande@AndyLyons.com. It's so important because it's no longer what the demographics, it's how are they feeling, thinking, being, so that you can turn your language into what your brand promises. And you can do it in a way that resonates with who they are. Oh my gosh. So I just want to say, Richard O, radio producer extraordinaire for decades himself. I know you are really loving all of this. And Cardi, so happy to, first of all, just meet you recently online. It was so great. And so thrilled that you're tuning in. Hooray. And David Allison, are your ears burning? Yay. And coming up a week from this today, it's Abraham Ventura, and he's stopping by to say hi and do some claps as well. We love that.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this amazing conversation. And as you know, I love to promote what you're doing out there. So be sure to share your website, your business name, your URLs, your one-liners. And here's Mia Voss showing you how it's done. Go to shitwedon'ttalkaboutpodcast.com and subscribe and listen to her amazing conversations. Phenomenal.
She's a star.
So here we are. and you've been an on-air host. You've really understood now how to resonate, how to have that. And Tony Robbins has talked about this for decades as well. How do you talk in a way that those folks you can then pull them in? You resonate on their language, on their value level, on wherever they need to be, so that then you can bring them into your sphere. So, and I just find that incredibly empowering when you understand that it's not about you and your amazing product. It's tuning in. Oh my gosh, we're talking about radio. It's tuning into WIFM. What's in it for them, right?
Right, exactly. And when you give yourself permission to be yourself, you give others permission to be themselves.
Right.
And it just cuts through the BS, right? It makes the conversation faster, more powerful, more meaningful. It's easier we all have objectives, and there's no shame in that, right? And the objective is often to sell you something. Again, no shame there. But it gets you to that point so much faster because the trust is there.
Yeah. And remember, when you're going from point A to point B using Google Maps, sometimes, that's your destination. You want to make things happen, but you scroll over, you have to reboot, you have to whatever that word is. But anyway, to get back on track, you figure out different pathways along the way. Now, I want to talk about what compelled you to say, well, you know what? I've been working for these people all these years, and I've been loving what I do, even though they pay me nothing practically. How about I start a business and become an entrepreneur? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Did you have role models growing up? Like, or were you just a maverick that said, you know what, I think I can do this much better than anybody else?
I find, Andy, that I always need a catalyst because it doesn't really occur to me. Which is so weird still, I still always need somebody to kind of give me that nudge. But in this case, so I moved from Carolina, now I'm at XM, and I'd only had one experience working for corporate America before, but it was a very unusual one. And it was great. With IBM of all places. But at IBM, at XM, there's very, very different. There was HR, even though it was perceived, even though it seemed like this lawless, incredible place, like you walked up to the DJ floor and there were actually people swinging off the rafters. Tony, oh my God, who am I saying? My first day, the croon singer, Tony, help me.
Bennett.
Help me. Thank you. Tony Bennett was walking by, and you're like, holy shit. Right. And there was pictures of people naked with snakes around them. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was just this weird craziness, and it seemed like amazing. But then right away, you realized it was a really stressful environment. You couldn't speak your mind. The sexual harassment was galore. I mean, radio in general just is all about that because there's no women in it.
It's like the movie industry.
Precisely. And it's so weird to me that the Me Too hasn't really blown up there. I mean, I have an email from a very famous person that that asked me for spankings on my birthday. And you're just like, what the hell is wrong with you? My boss used to ask me every day, hey, Bradley, are your hands clean? Because he wanted to know, jokingly, could I hold his penis while he peed? Right.
Oh, listen. Okay, right. Everybody, all the women out there, raise your hand. You've got the stories. And now we all have permission to bitch slap folks.
Yeah. And the crazy thing too, Andy, is I participated in this because it was part of the norm and it was expected also because we didn't know, right? We didn't have these terms. There was no Me Too. There was none of this. You didn't know it was wrong.
But there was no consequences. So now we have consequences that we can point to. And so we can say, well, we have none of that.
Yeah. And what I did know, to answer your question, was that it was being used against me. So there was a hostile work environment. Again, we didn't have that phrase then either. I didn't know it. But I couldn't understand why my ideas weren't being validated. And I made my station. We did really well. We were like number one there for AAA or in the top 5. Mm-hmm. We were getting all these accolades.
Congratulations.
But I wasn't getting the credit. Thank you so much. Other people were basically shitting all over me, and I was like, "What the hell? I'm doing A+ work, and I'm not getting this."
Yeah.
And my body started to yell at me.
Yeah, boy, so thank you, body.
Thank you, body. Right. So I fell down the stairs and I tore a ligament in my ankle at
Mm.
work, and it didn't heal for a year and a half.
Wow.
And they accused me of faking it because I wanted a better parking space, which is like, again, hostile work environment. I had a huge rash on my torso that no one could explain. And then my hands started going. I couldn't type, but I looked normal.
Right.
Like I had hands, so they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I hired an intern myself with the money I didn't have to sit there and type for me at work.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm terrified. I can't type. The whole world has a keyboard. Holy shit! What am I going to do?
What are you going to do?
And this is 2006. So
we still don't have that. We didn't have that yet.
No, I think I had a flip phone,
Yeah.
right? Like email had just come out. There was MySpace, and I learned about Dragon Naturally Speaking, which is the voice activator. They power Siri now.
Yeah.
And I found a coach. There were 3 or 4 coaches in the whole country to train me, because this is like learning a new language. It's really difficult then.
Yes.
And so I bought my own laptop because XM wouldn't put the software in. The IT people wouldn't. Like, I can't work and they're not helping me. I'm crying every day. I'm going to every.
No, you have become a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a huge
and when you
pain in the ass.
when you become a problem at where you are, then listen, I'm speaking from experience, folks. I have been unemployable since 92. I fell off the wagon twice. One time I fired myself after 3 months. The second time I got fired after 3 months. It's I understand completely. And folks, you do not need to stay, no matter how sexy that job is. No matter how good you are, and I'll never forget, this is the last piece of advice I received from the all women's MBA program I went to, from the founding dean, who said, it doesn't matter how incredibly brilliant and exceptionally you are at what you do. If you're not in the right place for you, you will fail. And of course, I went into banking. I took that advice. So Kate, I deeply appreciate that. And I am, unfortunately, sometimes life will show up for you in an important way. And this time it was your body, and it really saved your life.
It saved my life, because it crippled me, and I had to find a new way, but I still wasn't listening, Andy. Like, I'm still trying to solve for the music industry. And so I paid that coach in CDs. She was a fan of my station, which was amazing, and helped me. And then I moved, I made a lateral move to a different music place, and same thing. It was a boys club. Now speaking of a pain in the ass, I require my own room. I require my own office, because my microphone hears everything and it can't learn, so I'm a huge pain in the ass, right? Like, I'm,
difficult.
Yeah, major difficult. Exactly. And this is when my dad had it, because all I was doing was crying and complaining about work, smoking. I loved smoking. I'm very good at smoking. Not anymore, but and
we get the picture that, and those listening on the podcast.
Oh my God!
Right? I want a cigarette right now.
Oh my God!
Smoked.
And I even I would buy Nat Sherman's, because I figured if I'm gonna smoke, I might as well have the best. What the fuck?
So Dad said, "I can't watch you any longer in so much pain." What happened?
He couldn't have so it was a confluence of things, right? So I knew I needed change, and so I was doing every kind of weird medicine you could think of. Like, I did all the normal stuff, which didn't work. So if you could dream of it, I was seeing these people. And then I was reading self-help books, which I hate self-help books. I really do, but I was forcing myself to do it because I had to change the channel, and I was trying to use everything I could think of, and so I was reading The Secret. Ugh, kill me now.
Oh yeah, please set yourself up for failure there.
Oh my God, I hate that book. But what I learned was, okay, everything coming out of my mouth was, I hate my life. I'm awful. I fail. I'm broken. I'm in pain.
And your brain was going, okay.
Yeah, let's live there. Yeah. Right. So that had to change. And then my husband, then boyfriend, was so kind and smart. He went to Barnes and Noble, because that's what you did. You go to the bookstore, and he bought me Guy Kawasaki's Art of the Start, which is a
nice
startup handbook, right? Yep. And I started to read it, and about the first or second chapter in there, Guy says, "Don't make a plan, just get started." So I was like, well, why the hell do I need this book?
Right.
Tossed it. And because my dad was shaking me by the shoulders at this point, this day, and he said, you don't need you can't work for other people.
Right. I love that. And so why did you choose a marketing agency then to start your first business with?
like I didn't even like, so my dad had said, the words were, you can't work for other people and there's no shame in that. Right. And so he hit on something really key, Andy, because the shame was what I felt. So this is why my body was really reacting, because I was still trying to please my male bosses. I still wanted an A+ in radio. And you hit on this before. I was terrified. Who the hell was I? I was Kate from the Loft. I was going to be nobody. I was going to be a nobody. That's what I thought in my mind. Okay. And I was so,
and
I
folks,
just couldn't imagine.
when you don't meet other people's expectations like a boss, or you do something that supposedly smart girls don't do or have happened to them, the shame builds deeper. And so you have to understand that that's just a story you're telling yourself. And shame, you can work with people. Right here, we've got Heather McCormick right here. She'd be happy to work with anybody if you need to shift your state. I even have a banner for her because she's that good at shifting the stories you tell yourself. But you can get caught in the hamster wheel of that.
It's that soundtrack, right?
And you broke out of it. I am so, so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, and like I had that help, right? And the other thing that happened that same week, I'm not kidding, is so I had these like quick ahas, and I went to lunch with a client who was hand delivering a product, which was unusual. They would usually mail it in, but they wanted to meet me because they were fans of mine at XM. And these two guys, we went to lunch, and I was going off about the music industry and how much I thought it sucked and what I thought needed fixing. And they were delighted. And it turns out they were angel investors, and they gave me $50,000 to start my first company.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
It was a good day. And I was this was lucky, Andy, because these two men, Al and Scott, just happened to be also really kind, smart, and trustworthy people. I mean, anybody could be like, here's $50, let's do this thing. And I was signing paperwork with, I don't know what I was doing. And thank you, Jesus. Like, he put me in good hands.
Absolutely. And they're called angel investors for a reason. And there's so many great angel. I mean, I've lost angel investor money, and I've had my angel investor say to me, it's okay. Even knowing going in, I still would have participated because it was such an incredible ride and a really great possibility. Let's just say a quick hello to everybody here. Hey, Abraham, we're so excited for next Friday and to hear all that you've been doing. You're going to love Abraham's story. And he says, here at Pitch Gauge, we love what Andy is doing for the startup community. We love to hear everyone's story. Yay. And Mia, oh yeah, Mia, this is a woman who wears a hard hat when she's not doing podcasting and brand ambassador. She's out there with the construction crew. So she says, I totally get that being one of the guys was how we survived. And Abraham, I am so glad that you get it. You have girls, right? And you have daughters. So Abraham is saying, I have daughters, and women like Kate make my girls stronger. He's got the muscle emoji there. Thank you, Kate. Yes.
Thank you.
And Mia seconding, folks. Heather McCormick Rimey is remarkable, and you really want to go and visit her. I'll have the link to her in the show notes. So now you are on the best of rides, right? After what you've just been through, the entrepreneurship journey, as hard as it is still part of you being fully expressed in the world. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on this ride where I'm being given permission to be whoever I want to be. And what Al and Scott realized that now I realized, and it's how I try my damnedest to treat my employees, or my team, I should say, is that they knew I was a wild horse. And if they just let me run, I'd win. Right. They could see that. So it was just DIY, make it up yourself, make it up as you go on, do it, pivot 50 times. We don't care. We believe in you. Right. And we did pivot a million times. And eventually one of them was into a marketing agency because I still was hanging on to the music thing. And it eventually shoved me out of there. Remember those catalysts I was saying? So my Aunt Johnette actually came to me and said, you're really good at marketing this thing you're doing with these two guys, this music thing. Would you mind consulting us? We'll pay you more money, and you don't have to be in the music industry anymore. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. And she put me on the Walmart account.
So did she have a connection there? What was her role with Walmart?
It was really unique. My aunt was a principal at the National Disability Institute. Again, like God is good. So here I am. I use voice activated software that paraplegics use, literally.
Wow.
And I'm being put in a position now where I get to understand how some my new clients and constituents actually operate on a computer, which no one else has that empathy, right? And she had a gift of bringing together for-profit, nonprofit, and government. So it was the IRS, disability, United Way Worldwide, Walmart, AT&T, and Bank of America. And they were all teamed up to work on a good cause designed to empower Americans through tax credits and lift them out of poverty.
Yeah. And you fit their need as a minority-owned business, woman-owned business.
I did. I mean, suddenly I had an agency, and I came at it through a different lens, right? Because I was kind of a wild horse, remember? And I'm renegade. I like lawlessness.
The beauty of that, though, Kate, about being the maverick, the wild horse, okay, the renegade, is that you can look at traditional methodologies for getting things done. They're dinosaurs in so many of the big industries and say, wow, if we did this and did that, then, now you're able to solve a problem that's been around for forever, and I think that's part of the beauty of your being a wild horse.
Well, the lucky thing was you were right. And my aunt was the one who gave me the permission to be myself. Whereas other people in that arena were looking at me cross-eyed, but she was like, she trusted me to fail up, as I say it. Right. And that was the second woman I'd ever worked for who treated all of her employees that way. And I saw that, and I was like, and I've said this to Lauren and Katie and Chris and all the other people on our team before, is like, I hired you because the worst you can do is still going to be amazing. Like, your very word, make the mistakes. Like, I don't care,
Okay, here we go. Come on, the worst you can do is still going to be amazing.
Yeah. Because I trust them and I trust their guts. And if you can't learn, it's like, remember being on the mic. I got to crack that mic every day. They trusted me and I said some stupid ass shit. I left a lot of silence. I left a lot of dead air on the air.
Listen, parenting, please. As I say to my kids, the Maya Angelou poem, when you know better, you do better. I didn't know better, but I'm doing better today. You just screw those kids. I mean, I've always said I've been saving for their therapy fund, not their college fund, to recover from my piss poor parenting. But anyway, I digress.
I doubt that.
So, it's so important that what you were able to do. And that's what your aunt saw. I mean, she wouldn't have thrown you up there if she didn't think that, even no matter how many mistakes, your worst is still going to be amazing. And, the confidence you put into people to really dive deep into it and be fully expressed and bring their brilliance and magic to the world is by giving them that freedom, by saying, it's okay. You're going to screw up and it's still going to be wonderful.
Yeah, it's if there's nothing else that I do, if there's nothing else that I do with this company, if that's the one thing, and I've already done it, Lauren especially, like the way that, I think she had said, I'm sorry for embarrassing you, Lauren, if you're listening, but so a couple years ago, I was hit by a state trooper going head on. He was going head on. He hit me head on going the wrong way in my lane and tore my rotator cuff as a result. Yeah. And so I had therapy and all these surgery and all these things. And suddenly, that's trauma. Of course, we can talk about that on another show. But anyways, here I am 3 weeks out of surgery with a big cast, like in the movie Splash, Yeah. One of those awful things. And SAP asks me to go to Sapphire with them and present to a whole room. And I was like, oh my God, I literally, I don't even know if I can get on the airplane. Like, I can't do anything. So I said, Lauren,
excuse me, I need 3 seats.
No, for real. Right. And I couldn't put on a bra. Okay. Not kidding. So I was like, hey, Lauren, can you come with me? I need you to job description change. Can you put my bra on? And she was literally practicing putting mascara on her husband to help me. Okay.
Oh my gosh. That's a team.
Amazing.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
I think she had said that she'd either never been on a plane before or maybe only once or twice. this incredible woman who is running customer service for us, right? She has a degree or a master's in psychology analytics, and she was working at a hospital in the cancer ward. So her day was sad. Every day was really sad. And we had already hired, we were about to hire for this position. The resumes were closed, and she emailed me. She said, I have to have this job. And so we interviewed her and gave her the job. And she had said to me, you know, there's a lot of guys on the top level of your team, and I want to change that. And so I was like, okay. And so we went to Sapphire and we demoed live a room of 75 people. And Lauren, in 2 hours, had signed up 51 of those people.
Lauren.
Yeah. Look at her go. And now she's my head of operations. All right. So like, this is somebody who, and I micromanage some shit. I'm definitely can be really annoying, but she somehow tolerates me, or she doesn't.
She manages up.
She doesn't let me know. I can't live without her. I had to live without her for 2 months when she had her beautiful son, Hunter. Thank God, he's wonderful. But it was like really scary for me because I was like, oh my God, my right leg is gone, and arm and head, brain.
How do I get through this day? What happened?
Yeah, but there you go. So there's the pass it on, right?
Yeah.
It's our job, and I've said this before. Like, Andy, you can only lift others up when you're up. So the people that are up have to do it. So that means I need white guys to help me. I need them. Right.
We're all pretty clear about that. Just had a big story about, I think, a tweet fast about the mechanics, but go ahead.
Right. So, and that's something that people forget. Like, you can whine all day about being the underdog, but you have to include the upper dogs in the conversation so that they can actually lift you up. And then remember when it's your turn to do the same thing. So like, it's not very hard. You can lift somebody up by just pulling down the mask, and smiling for 1 second. You can lift somebody up by, this one is hard for me, but not shitting on them when they make a mistake sometimes, because like as a job as a CEO, I'm like eyeballing everybody. Right. Sometimes I have to just be like, you have
to get out your pillow that says, even your worst will be amazing.
Even your worst. Yeah. Let it ride. Right. Or maybe, not nag my husband.
Right. No. We're all human. We're all managing the stresses that we have going on at the same time. But, and also, folks, you can read every book, go to any seminar, take somebody's mastermind class. It will not matter until you start as a founder. There's nothing that prepares you for this journey. And this is something we were talking about early on, which was this whole, just check the box. Do they have this pedigree? Do they have this background? Right. Do they have this perfect founder market fit? I never had a founder market fit. I mean, all my businesses, Kate, came to me like stray cats at the door. And I was like, say what? I ain't doing that. And then the next thing I know.
That's amazing.
So I have a deep appreciation, but you know what I do? And we talk about how Shark Tank, it gives such a gloss to everything and makes it scientific. It isn't. And one thing they don't teach you ever, what we definitely learned in grad school, were the political ramifications, the weather ramifications, things that you can't even, because I had a food manufacturing business that got hit by my manufacturing facility got hit by lightning and burned to the ground. You cannot anticipate that. And so, things will happen that will require you to move on or adjust accordingly. But the point is what investors are investing in, and those angel investors with you, and Damon John said this too. It's like, hey, I don't care if this person fails. I'm going to go whatever they're going to do next, because they'll have figured it out. They are about solving the problem. So you saw a problem, Kate, that what you wanted to solve with Lately. What was it that you kept seeing everybody? You said, okay, now we got to fix this.
At first I thought it was organization, which is kind of a weird thing, right? So the spreadsheet system that I built for Walmart, the Walmart project, it ended up getting us 130% ROI year over year for 3 years. And I thought it was because I had developed this way to give us insight into what was going on. But when we turned that into a product, which we did as Lately, what we saw was that customers went to this one feature more than anything else. And it was the writing part. Like, they wanted the writing done for them. And so there was this huge blocker that was shocking to me, where the world's largest retailer hated writing and was bad at it. I saw that. They were hiring out all kinds of consultants to write blogs, white papers, and press releases for them. But I saw that small agencies and small companies had the same problem, right? So I was just talking to my friend Brian Moran about this. Even for Brian Moran, people who are like seasoned writers and marketers, the fear of the blank page is real. Like I have a intern, Isabel, and she'll write a blog for me, and I'll take the whole thing apart, like 90% of it, and rewrite it. But it's so much easier for me to do that than to start from scratch.
100% editing, right? Easy breezy.
Editing is easy, exactly. And so that was a thing we saw where, Lately was just giving people a huge leg up by essentially starting them at 90%, right? Now, what's interesting is that the 10%, which requires a human, people are still allergic to, Ande, and it makes me crazy. Like they don't want to do anything. Humans can be so lazy, and you're like, Jesus Christ. We just said with the science part, right?
Right.
You can only science so much of it. We've talked about the human element today, the je ne sais quoi of what is it that makes you create listeners into fans, right?
And you see it, folks. You see it brilliantly in MailChimp. You see it brilliantly in other platforms that know how to, they have a little toss. I don't even know how they come up with that language, but it's their language and they find it.
That's the personality. There's that little thing that you have to, have to infuse the robot with, right? Because the AI on its own is just cold. It's cold. Whereas humans on their own, we are slow. We are. But together, these things, it's not even in the triple win. It's like the exponential win. Right. That's what we discovered, right? So for example, Gary Vee, who created an entire Twitter channel out of Lately, he gets a 12,000% increase engagement. Not too shabby, right?
Hello, and what a great.
Yeah, and a nice man, by the way. He's the one that told me, to your point earlier, I used to not put on LinkedIn my real self. I saved it for, Facebook or maybe even Twitter. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, because I don't want investors to like be offended or think I'm not professional. And he's like, then you don't want them invested in you. Like, those aren't your people. And I was
That's
like,
right.
Oh, yeah.
May as well put that. Are you kidding? Andelicious advice. Do you know how many people shudder when they hear that? And I go, good, move aside.
There you go. I love that. Move aside.
Yeah, move aside. I'm not you. I'm not for you. And we can't be that for everybody. But yeah, and Gary, he's really softened up over the last few years and becomes even more human and really pushing about being happy. Not about the dollar, not about how it's supposed to look. You don't have to be a unicorn founder. I love all of that language. And I'm absolutely here for it because it's about what makes your heart sing, founder, and what works for you. You can scale yourself out of business if you're not in the stream that's right for you.
It sounds corny, and you don't really, it's hard to believe, honestly, Ande, until you're in it, right? Because you think you're like, what? Just be myself. Like I remember Marat from ERA, one of the accelerators we're in, it was 2016. He said to me, be yourself. And I was like, I'm myself, but I wasn't. I was going into meetings with a suit and a briefcase. What? I don't own those things now anymore, at all.
That's not a fit.
It's what I thought I was supposed to do, but as soon as I understood, like, hey, cowboy boots and t-shirts, saying the F-bomb, this is who I am. Like,
that's
everything changed, it was more easy. And that stress, that physical manifestation of the stress goes away too, because your gut is this incredible weather vane that tells you what the hell is going on. And I find that women especially are really bad at listening to their gut.
Yeah. And I think, finding role models who aren't there to try to make people happy. They're really honestly and you folks, know when an influencer is being a persona, okay, versus who they be. So like someone like Mia Voss, she is totally 100% who she be. You are who you are. Me with all my accessories, absolutely. And colors, absolutely, and sure, tone it. So many women, of course, wanted to tone it down. We were raised with different models as how we, different memos that we received and how we were supposed to be. But founders take this in, what Kate just said with that incredible pearl of wisdom. Wisdom is It is be you, because you want to attract the investors who want to be in alignment with you and your journey. And yeah, you may have to mine a lot of diamonds, a lot of coal before you find the right diamonds for your investors worth the wait. Kate, speaking of investing and really being in alignment, you are in the 1% to 2% category of women who raise big money for their business. I mean, you have landed, 3 million and more, I am sure, through as you built Lately. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because women have had it. We've absolutely had it with the behavior, the questions. And folks, if you don't understand this, and the guys watching this, just watch the next pitch event you're going to. If you see two co-founders, one female, one male, they're going to get different questions. The male is going to be talked to about how they can succeed, and the woman is going to be asked, what are you going to do when this doesn't work out?
Yep.
And
amazing.
It's like, we got the data, folks. So share with us how you did it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. And it's funny because, you don't even believe it's happening because it sounds so ridiculous. And I had to have Joanne Wilson as one of my investors, and she told me, she's like, this is happening to you. And I was like, what? And at first I was, really angry. But now that I see it, I can spot it quickly. And I think it's really important to help others spot it as well. And I have a thing about, it's not a chip on my shoulder, which a male investor recently told me, and I was like, let
me just talk a little bit about that, because Ms. Withers back here in Boston did it beautifully. When you grew up came of age during this time period, you have bruised hearts. Okay. Yeah. Today, women are getting, bruised lips. All right. The punches are different. And so, of course, you can have a chip on your shoulder because your lived experience has been like enough already. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Enough already. I mean, I'll tell you guys a quick story if it's okay, but here's an example. And let's just give a quick fact. So female entrepreneurs only get, I think it's 2.3% of the funding. Yeah. It may have grown to 2.7. Whoa.
But it came back down again.
It came back down again. That's right.
12 months. Yeah.
Yep. And even though there's more dry powder than ever before, and female founders are treated this way by female investors too. Mm-hmm. And I've treated women badly before. I've been guilty. I've seen myself do it and thought, Jesus Christ, because it's pervasive. It's how the media treats us to treat each other, trains us to treat each other.
Oh yeah.
And so recognizing that, and then, I went to see an investor once. We'd made an appointment. I had to go all the way down to the city. It's a 3-hour journey for me to do that. And this is someone who was referred. We had a warm intro, and he knows who I am. Like, I've been in circles or whatever. And I go, and it's a glass office, and I can see him in the office. And the secretary welcomes me and gives me a glass of water. And I'm sitting down, and it's time for our meeting. And I can see him pick up the phone instead of coming to our meeting. So I'm like, okay. So he gets on the phone, he yaks away for 15 minutes, and then he goes into our room, and an assistant comes in, and they call me in. We start the meeting, and I say, oh, I'm glad we got introduced by so-and-so. And he looks at me blankly. And so clearly he hasn't briefed himself. He forgot why I'm here. He hasn't read anything about me. He doesn't know anything. Okay. And now I'm like, what the hell? Yes. And now he's asking me to actually go through the details of every round I've raised in this moment so he can write them down. And I'm like, do you want to do this now? This is public. It's on Crunchbase. This is going to spend our hour. Yeah. This is the time, And he's like, no, this is really important. And I'm like, okay. So we start going through, and he's like, no, I need you to do it in this order specifically. And now, so he's railroading me, right? And so then, and I haven't even given my pitch yet. So I start to give my pitch, and oh, by the way, he's called me Katie twice because his daughter's name is Katie. He keeps reminding me. So now he's comparing me to his daughter, which is insulting to me. She's a child, of course, right? Then I start my pitch, and he falls asleep, Andy. He does one of these. And there's someone else in the room. I'm not boring. Okay. Of all the things, I'm not boring. And I'm like, what the hell? So he does that twice. And then he gets up, and he goes to the whiteboard, and he's like, let me educate you on XYZ. So he starts giving me this little lesson on some recent blog that's come out by like Thomas Tungas or whatever the hell.
Oh, run for the hills, everybody, when somebody starts acting like that.
Yes. So then he sits down, right? And he backs his chair up like this, puts his hand on his head like this, and says, "So, how can I be of help to you?" Now, this is what investors do when they're not interested and they want to waste your time and they're trying to say no. Like, how can I be helpful to you? And I was so nervous and I was shaking so hard, and I stood up and I said, "You can be helpful by never, ever doing this to another woman again." And he's like, "What?" He was shocked. He's like, "What?" And I went down the things and I told him all the things. You fell asleep, like all these things. And so he scrambles and he starts to apologize. And he's like, "Can we talk some more?" And I was like, "No, I'm already late for this other thing. I just wasted my day with you." And he's like, "Can I email you?" And I was like, "Sure," because I just couldn't deal. And so I go to the door and it's a magnet and I can't open the damn door. So the assistant has to come and open it for me. And then I go stand by the elevator, the glass, everybody can see me. And I'm just sitting there waiting for the elevator, like trying to
I mean,
stomp
it's
out.
really out of a movie.
It's crazy.
The awkward exit.
And he did email me this whole apology, which I forwarded to a few people. And then I did the best thing, like, stitch this on a pillow. I deleted it with my middle finger.
Yes. Whether it worked or not, you were there going, yeah. That, folks, is for sure.
It was awesome. But I wanted to say that you don't always have the wherewithal to do that in the moment. And that's the other thing, is it's okay, because what I do is I kick myself afterwards, like, because I've had a lot of those moments where I haven't been able to do that. And you feel cheated, you feel shook, you feel taken advantage of, and then you start to run all through the reasons of like why you're failed or why it's your fault, right? This is what happens.
Yep.
And so that's why it's so important to tell other women that what happened to you, but then also that it's okay to not react, and that there's nothing wrong with not reacting.
If you're not the person who's going to be the rebel, I can't think of her name right now, Eric Bronovich or whatever her name
Erin
was.
Brockovich.
Brockovich, yeah.
Right.
If you're not going to be, if that's not part of your nature, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just
don't worry about it. Just acknowledge it to yourself.
Burn some sage.
Yeah.
Cleanse yourself off. But folks, I want you to also reach out to me and get my investor questions, okay? And questions for investors. Here's why. Because I have a list of questions. Thank you, Alex Iscald, for this list that if you want to be prepared and just show some investors what for, these questions are for them. All right. And they're very important when you're raising money. You are in the driver's seat. These investors are trying to have their own agenda. They're trying to build their portfolio. You are more important to them than they are to you. Remember that. There we go. Just thought I'd get that out of my system.
It is. And you know what? It's crystal clear when lots of investors are really nice. And I've got a bunch of them. Thank
phenomenal.
God. They really are. And you just learn to look for what's genuine. And, I think that's the most important thing, is to like go with what feels good in your gut.
Right.
When people ghost you, people ghost people a lot. Like I hate that.
Well, and you know what? I had Jenny Lefcourt on for the 100th episode recently, and cool. Jenny raised money during the .com days. So of course, money was flying left and right, and people didn't care, woman, guy, it didn't matter. Yeah. Okay. The bro culture happened later, everybody, in a different way. Okay. So when she came together with a bunch of women to form the nonprofit All Raise, which is to help women raise money and get amplified, she was like, well, what's the big deal? She readily admitted that she had her head in the sand. She had not realized what women were going through. And she just shared some really great points. I have a shorter video on my YouTube channel, folks, that you can see that about how All Raise accelerates women. But her honesty was lovely, Kate, about going, wow, I own that. I had no idea. And a lot of times the guys don't know it because, until you get conscious of something, you don't see it.
That's the thing too. They don't, a lot of times they don't intend it to offend you. And you do, yeah. There's a nice way of saying that, instead of, that's really important, is like to not go off the rails and go from zero to like cancel.
Yeah.
Right. And I talked to my team about that before as well, just to say, like, there's lines do get crossed. You have to be flexible, and you have to, context is so important.
Sure it is.
And it's two sides to realize that most people don't intend to be themselves. They don't.
They don't. They
You
don't.
know?
And folks, Kate is right. We're just talking about some glaringly obvious moments, and there is still the bro culture that we are working with in the startup industry. It's there, but we can, raise the consciousness and amplify each other by at least not doing that to each other. And yeah, Mia and Abraham are both going, yep, deleted it with my middle finger.
It's a great one that somebody taught me. I love that one.
Hey, and Chris Bro, I'm so happy you're tuning in. We had to stitch it on a pillow for you earlier.
We did.
It was so good, so good. And Asia, so happy to see you. Always a treat to have you in the fold here while we're having a really good conversation. But you found the right investors, right?
I did. Yeah. I've been really lucky, and they
Yeah.
support me. And you have to learn what your relationship is to, in the beginning, like you said, you don't realize it's a two-way street because that's not how the industry trains you.
Right.
They train you as that you're the low person on the totem pole. But it's not that way. And you have to learn, just like with any relationship, everybody wants to talk to you and hang out and find out what's going on. And you have to, even with the investors you love, you have to create a relationship where you are the one that gets to reach out to them because you're so busy. That's part of the thing. You're so focused, and you need to be able to access them for help when you need it, but also I'm a wild horse. So if you're going to be up ass every day asking me what's going on here, I'm not going to work out very well for you. Right.
Right.
And so I've had to learn to attract investors who let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard because at first you just want anybody's money, but there's been people that we've been able to turn down a lot of money, at least $5 million in money that we've turned down. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, because I've heard horror stories about other founders dealing with those investors.
Oh,
I'm sure
handcuffs everybody.
Yeah.
And really, weights that drown you.
Yeah. And it's a hard thing to, kind of realize
Kate,
in the moment.
I got to tell you, and I want to hold up the mirror. You, to me, are an ideal founder to invest in for so many reasons. First of all, you have just a track record of determination and resiliency and tenacity. Okay. Plus, you have a deep understanding of something that's really hard for so many people to grasp. A lot of people can get the tech down. All right. But they can't get, how do I move product? How do I relate to people who are going to want this? And I have to tell you, as someone who, has gotten to know your team really well, your team is outstanding. So that's another thing that you do really well. You attract really good. I mean, you're good at team acquisition.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. That means really that's the best compliment you could possibly pay to me. Thank you.
Yeah. And also you have what I never had, which is the great founder market fit. You are dealing with marketing. And so you understand this beautifully. So to me, you're a brilliant investment. And now you've taken something that drives us all crazy. So when I'm done with this, folks, with the show, I download the audio as well as the whole video. I go in and I find great snippets that Kate is going to say and do, and then I can repurpose them here and do this and do that. But and then of course I repurpose the show on the podcast for my wonderful listeners. But here's the scoop. A lot of times when you could be running a barbershop, you could be running a massage place, you could be running, a small business of whatever, or a medium-sized business. How do you find the time to take that content and turn it into impactful and effective bites for people to grab? And you know this from years in radio, you got to keep hitting people again and again, so they just really get drenched in your brand and get that trust factor. How are you doing that with Lately? Talk about how you onboard folks. And I know we've had a great conversation about you, and you've been doing a brilliant job at weaving in Lately's deliciousness the whole way through, which I love. That's another good founder.
Thank you.
Perfection. But where are you at with Lately today, and how can people get on board and get going with some Lately?
I love you. From your lips to God's ears, my dear. We dog food our own product. As you might know, we only use Lately to market Lately, and we have a 98% sales conversion, Ande.
Okay, wait a minute, everybody. I'm just gonna
98%, yeah. And it's because like you said, a couple things. Number one, the AI is so smart at pulling out the best quotes, and we are also willing humans to put the effort in to teach it and learn it, you know?
Yeah.
But that thing we talked about, the human element and the robots, it's how, and the wild horse stuff, we live this. We treat you like this. We treat our would-be customers who've left us. We treat each other this way. You know, we walk the talk. I'm so, you know, once in a while I mess it up, and, you know, Kristen might say something to me like, "Hey, dude, that wasn't cool," or Lauren might pull me aside and be like, "You should ease up on Chris," or whatever. Which I love that about them, you know.
Because we're a
so
team.
We're
You're not a family, everybody. You have to remember, okay? You
Yeah.
are a business team, because family is a little bit too much pressure on a startup.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to put into that context, because then stuff's going to happen. But if you're, you know, a team, think, you know, sports or other type, you know, a quartet, you know, people have to really sound great together, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like in the kitchen, you know?
Yes,
right?
in the kitchen. You're getting, you know, you're working together and synthesizing and making a delicious meal for a customer. And your customers must be so happy, because I know, just, you know, experiencing your team from my own social media, you know, promotion of today's show. Wow. Love them all. They get it. They speak what I said to Asia, who is just an amazing folks. Asia K right here. Customer experience, UX. She's your gal. She, you know, she came onto my thread, and I said, "Oh my gosh, this woman speaks online language." That's what your people do.
Yeah, they're really, you know, we worked at it. I mean, I purposely chose people who are like me, you know, in that way. And because we see it works. And we knew a long time ago that the way to win when you're small is through marketing and customer service, right? Because, you know, I mean, there's a million bad products out there that have been well marketed that do really super well, right? So, but, you know, we mess up too, Andy. Like you know, we listen to our customers, and it crushes us when we displease them. It really does. We take it to heart. We study it endlessly, and we iterate endlessly. And sometimes it's really painful to have somebody leave us, and we know all the things we could have done better, but not fast enough, you know. And there's all kinds of, you know, this very well. There's all kinds of constraints. There's budget, timing, you know, all these things. You're playing with it all the time. Like we get the front end really right, you know, but on the back end, we're not doing so well right now, and we know how to fix it. We've got things in place. They're working, and it's exciting, and I can't really talk about it. But I'm impatient, because like I want to see all this stuff go to fruition. And
when did you launch Lately?
We launched, let's see, like legally in 2014, but we weren't selling it till I think it was 2018.
Okay. So folks, 3 years you're into it now. You know, you had those years, and when you're working with AI, it takes time to figure that out.
Oh yeah, and we've made a million mistakes, and we've changed our pricing a million times. We've pivoted. You know, we're constantly looking together to see what's working and what's not, and looking for the patterns. Right, this is the best advice any startup founder gave me, was to always look for the patterns, good and bad, because you're trying to either replicate them or eliminate them. And the great insight there is you don't need a lot of information. Really, if it happens 2 or 3 times, that's enough to know it's rampant. In good or bad ways, right?
So, and how can, like, folks listening now, or anybody who, you know, tunes in, and they're, you know, they want to get some Lately, what do they need to do? You see the lower third here, folks, the banner flying by with all that contact info. We've got here LatelyAI. They can visit. You know, how else can the Startup Life community serve you?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, come on by for a visit. We're, you know, people are a little bit allergic to demos, but that's how we learn right now, and it's what we're doing. So lately.ai, you request a demo, you meet my team. They will not try to sell you. They'll try to do everything but, because that's the way we sell.
Is there an enterprise size that works best with you, where you know, for who's your ideal customer?
We're small, medium, and large. We're learning to be better at small. That's kind of something we're working on right now. And so don't be afraid of that. We'll custom price for you, because again, we're doing some magical things in the background. And so we need more information from all sizes of customers in order to do that. But yeah, so, and we really customize everything. I mean, because we're just studying and taking so many notes in the background. And the AI is a beast, right, Andy?
Yeah.
So one of the things we do is we teach you how to use it, and we teach you how to teach it because it's actually informs our database, so it can
Yep.
give you better results because it's accessing everybody's best practices.
Great. And so when someone signs up, they've already created the long form, and then you're going to get it repurposed, or how does that work?
Yeah, so either you have your own long form content like a blog or a
Mhm.
podcast like this.
Yeah.
You can also use earned media. So if you're doing lots of interviews, you just ask
Yeah.
somebody for the file, or if you have a PR interview.
Yeah.
And we also have a way through Up Content, one of our partners, for you to type in keywords and they'll go find content for you that you can run
Nice.
through the AI. So there's a lot of possibilities.
Because those of you who are running marketing teams or founders who know your marketing needs to be better, but you need to automate it a little more because you don't have the budget for this level of investment for a team, this is a wonderful feature. But anybody who's larger, this is so important. Taking that piece of content, but also understanding who they are and where they are and why they are, that value driven way of doing content marketing is so powerful. And the lift, I believe, that they must experience is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and just so everybody knows how it works, the AI studies everything you write on social and it looks for what gets you the highest engagement. And then it applies that model to anything you feed it. So in the case of a video like this, it'll pull out all the great one-liners that Andy or I have said today with the matching video clips of us saying it. Right.
Oh, okay. So there goes my life is much easier.
It's all part of the fun, right?
It's all part of the fun. But seriously, there's so many ways to repurpose what you're doing. It's so important. I just love this something fierce.
Thank you.
And there he is, the man, the myth, the legend,
Chris,
who's now saying, geez, I don't know if I want the last name BRO.
I know, right? It's actually French is how he really spells it. So it's BREAULT, but because people misspelled it so often, he just changed it.
Like, why bother? That is so wonderful. I love that you did that, Chris. So happy with your comment, which says keeps the whole team on brand on social media too. It is, I talk about this all the time because branding is everything, but even more importantly, it's the brand promise, who you be, and the promise that you'll be that every single time. And Kristen, hi, Kristen Shad. Repurposing your content is key. It is. Don't just let one thing sit there and go stale on the shelf, folks. Oh my gosh, we've had the best conversation. You've answered all my key questions throughout, which is, how do you, but one of them is how do you shift yourself when you're feeling inadequate? And you've talked about the times when you were, beating yourself up and, oh my gosh, this didn't work and that didn't work. What works great for you when the stories start getting a little too down on who you be? And everybody just remember, we all have founder doubt. I don't care how many exits you have, you're still going to have founder doubt in your business.
You just got to change the channel, Andy, right? Like that's the most important thing. So sometimes, my mom taught me this, sometimes it's like pick your desk up and move it to the other wall in the room. Sometimes it's go get your hair done. Sometimes it's buy new sheets, right? Sometimes it's make a change up on the staff. Sometimes it's pivot the business, right? Sometimes it's walk outside,
right? It can be simple as just go out for a walk and don't push yourself, folks. I love that advice, Kate. Thanks, Mom. That was great. And finally, how has entrepreneurship served you? Both personally and professionally, because, you were going through some real difficult times. And when you went and fully launched yourself as a fab female founder, what have you seen shift? What changes? How has this enhanced you?
I mean, I wouldn't recommend this. I'm just telling people, just be really clear. Like I get punched in the face every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm punching myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I love it and I prefer it because that pain for me is infinitely better than the pain of working for a-holes, right? Like I can't even imagine that. Like that's actually crippling to me.
Yeah.
And so, I think as long as you know that and you're willing, the stomach is a big thing. You got to have a stomach for it. And the wherewithal to let other people help you is really, really hard when you're, someone who likes to do it all yourself and you're a control freak, which most of us are, let's be honest.
And that just won't ever serve you or your business.
Yeah. And it's really hard to do.
So you've learned how to delegate, you've team build, you've done all of these wonderful things.
Sure, trying.
And we've got some exciting things coming up for Lately, which I can't wait to see unfold for you.
Thank you.
And I'm just so excited. And I'm just so grateful that you chose to be a founder and to really change the world, because as a leader, it's your ability to take this team and create this magic. And then as a result, make a difference in so many other businesses' lives with your platform Lately. So I'm a huge fan, but thank you too for your transparency today and helping us understand who you are and that journey that you've been on. And I know your words have helped many founders around the world who will tune in. This is archived everywhere, and grabbing the nuggets. So thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to pop you down here and just take a moment to, soak in all the incredible wisdom that we grabbed from this extraordinary woman today. And then the stories, I just feel like I could go on for another hour, but we can't. I mean, she's running a business. She's got to get back to work and make things happen. But I'm so grateful that y'all tuned in, and you know what you have to do to get an alert whenever I go live. You just come right over here to the Startup Live Live meetup group, and you can go to bit.ly/Startup Live Live. Live is all caps, or scan the QR code and you'll be there. Let me tell you who's coming up on the 14th of September. That's right. Speaking of all these tech founding, all these tech moments here, we have Nelly Yusupova, who's going to share how you can build a tech startup without having a tech background or prior tech experience. And she's a CTO with over 18 years of experience leading companies to technical excellence. And through her online masterclass, Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs, she provides the roadmap to successfully manage technology teams and projects, which, without being a coder, okay, or even having the language of tech. So, and we all need that. Many of you are founding businesses and starting businesses that have a lot of technology, and you have to hire folks. So I hope you can tune in on the 14th and join us for a wonderful conversation. And until then, I just want to remind you all that you must remember that you are braver than you believe and stronger than you seem. And oh yeah, wicked smarter than you think, as we say here in Boston. You're doing it. I'm so proud of all of you out there. Can't wait to see you again. Thanks so much for tuning in. Blowing you kisses, mwah, filled with appreciation. Bye.